Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me in the Bettor's Box with BangTheBook.com's MLB betting podcast for Thursday, July 4th. I am your host, Adam Burke. This and every edition of the Bettor's Box presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Monday, Thursday format here with the show. Going to have a short and sweet July 4th edition for you. Talking about some quick thoughts heading into the last weekend of the regular season for the first half. Then give you some thoughts on some of those specific series here. We'll have another edition of the Bettor's Box coming up on Monday. So send me those Monday mailbag questions at Skating Tripods on Twitter or Adam at BangTheBook.com. Should be doing a show on Thursday as well. On Thursday's show next week, I'll talk about some adjusted season win total bets I'm looking to make. Last year, a lot of success fading the Detroit Tigers. So try to find some of those here for the second half. On Monday, I'll probably just recap the first half, talk about some of the things that have happened, some positive and negative regression candidates, all that type of stuff. Today's MLB picks and tips piece has been updated. Lots of good college football and NFL content over at the website. Previews of this weekend's NASCAR races at Daytona. Thoughts on the golf tournament up in Minnesota. Of course, the John Deere Classic next week. Then the Open Championship in 2 weeks. So we'll chat with Brian Blessing about that here on the show during British Open Week. And also I've reached out to Rolf Michaels. We're going to do some college football stuff for you here in the month of July as well. So keep it tuned to Bang the Book Radio. We'll have a lot of good things coming your way. All right, so like I said, quick show here for the July 4th holiday. No UFC this week. Couldn't do it last week. I wound up going out of town for the weekend. And then this week, the holiday today, got a wedding rehearsal to go to tomorrow afternoon. So not really a whole lot of time to put together a podcast for UFC 239, but hoping Christian Pina will get an article together for us so we can post over at the website. But I just wanted to hop on the air real quickly here today and give you some quick thoughts heading into the All-Star break, because I think this weekend can be a really challenging handicap. You've got some teams that have had very long, very tumultuous first halves. They're kind of looking forward to the break. Maybe some of these guys taking short vacations with their families, something like that. You also have teams, generally the more experienced teams, and we do have some experienced division leaders out there once again this season. You have those teams that see this as an opportunity to bank some wins, because these underdogs, these teams that have had rough first halves, maybe they're not fully invested. Maybe they're not as focused as they should be in this round of games. So just wanted to look historically here and see if there are any angles for us to consider. Looking back over the last 5 years, the weekend right before the All-Star break, this year's All-Star break earlier than it's been in any of the most recent seasons. So I don't think that really factors in too much, but it does mean that there are a few more games in the unofficial second half of the season than we usually see. In any event, July 13th to 15th of last year, 2018, favorites were 26 and 15. The totals were split right down the middle, 20, 20, and 1. July 7th through the 9th in 2017, favorites 22 and 22. The under 24, 16, and 4. July 8th through the 10th, 2016, favorites 28 and 16, under 24, 19, and 1. July 10th through the 12th of 2015, favorites were 29 and 14, 23, 18, and 2 to the under. Then July 11th to 13th, 2014, favorites 31 and 13, but 26 and 17 to the over. So 2014, the definite outlier. When you look at these results here, nothing really stands out all that much. In 2017, the favorites only going 500 is an outlier. I would not expect that here for this weekend, especially with how top-heavy the major leagues are this season. Would expect favorites to win at their normal clips. So you want to look for spot plays. You want to look for situations of teams that are maybe pretty fatigued. They've maybe played a lot of games here without a whole lot of days off. You want to look for favorites that can prey on teams that, as I mentioned, have had very rough first halves. Maybe they had higher expectations for where they are. Maybe they head into the break hanging their heads a little bit. And obviously, too, you want to look for maybe pitchers that have had a very high workload. They're looking forward to some downtime, maybe some young starters getting through the rotation, every 5 days for the first time. those are guys that could use that break. And, of course, coming out of the All-Star break as well, I'll talk about this on Thursday, you want to be very aware of guys that haven't pitched in a while. You're going to have some instances after the All-Star break where guys haven't pitched in 10, 12, 14 days because of the way that the schedule's set up, some off days before the break, or, of course, just the break itself and teams looking to get off on the right foot once the second half starts, sending their best guys out there. So you want to factor all this stuff into the equation. I think going into the break and coming out of the break, very challenging handicapping times. But as we look at this weekend here specifically, it's largely business as usual for the favorites. Not a whole lot of difference in the favorite straight-up win percentages in this final weekend. Maybe a slant towards the unders. Again, last year was 500. The previous 3 years, you'd make money blindly betting the under. But, again, obviously, betting unders here this season in Major League Baseball, a very challenging thing to do with all the home runs that are being hit. Again, teams having long seasons could be fade-worthy. The run line has turned a small profit in 3 of the last 4 years, 2018, 2017, and 2015. No such luck in 2016. So, while the Dogs aren't winning a whole lot of games, it's still not like blowout central or anything like that. So I would tread very lightly this weekend. It is not a weekend where I tend to have a whole lot of volume. I can't see that being any different here this weekend, especially with those wedding festivities. Not my wedding, but, a wedding that I'm part of. So I would expect that we tread lightly. We have a limited number of plays. I would probably suggest the same on your end as well. Now, one thing that I did want to look at here, Sunday favorites, the last day going into the All-Star break, just to see if maybe those favorites kind of take the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, if the Dogs try to go into the break with some positive feelings, something like that. Last year, 10-4 for the Sunday favorites. 2017, just 6-9. 2016, 9-5. 2015, 8-6. 2014, 13-2. So not really a whole lot that we can gather from that. Favorites doing pretty well last season on that last day, going 10-4. If anything, I would expect that to be the case again, just because, as I mentioned, you look at last year, the league was very top-heavy, veteran-savvy teams in the lead for divisions, wild cards, stuff like that. Kind of the same setup here this season as well. So those are teams that understand the importance of banking that last win before the All-Star break. Would expect a lot of those teams to probably get them. So if you think it's a trustworthy team, a trustworthy pitcher, usually a more experienced team, go ahead and look to play them on Sunday. Obviously, you may have to lay some pretty significant juice in those situations, but I would expect that favorites do pretty well on Sunday in that final day before the break. I will handicap the Home Run Derby on Monday's show. Won't have any thoughts on the All-Star game itself. You have no idea when these pitchers are going to pitch, stuff like that. But I'll handicap the Home Run Derby for you, and I'll have a big breakdown of the 8 hitters in that Home Run Derby coming up here either Sunday or Monday. Obviously, it's at Progressive Field in Cleveland. Not attending any of the festivities or anything like that, but I will have some pretty interesting thoughts for you on the Home Run Derby coming up here on Monday night. All right, speaking of thoughts, let's give you some for the weekend here. I got a handful of series. I think it's 7 to look at here for this weekend. And we start with the Brewers and the Pirates. Zach Davies, Stephen Brault on Friday. Adrian Hauser, Trevor Williams Saturday. Chase Anderson, Joe Musgrove on Sunday. This should be a competitive series. You don't really have a clear-cut favorite here in this series. The Pirates playing a little bit better. The Brewers struggling a little bit here. I believe no teams in the NL Central finished over 500 finished over 500 in the month of June. So important games for both of these teams here. The Pirates working to get back into the hunt. The Brewers, as I mentioned, maybe it was on Monday, with a low left on base percentage in the month of June. So they've been a little bit unlucky, but a very important respite for their bullpen here coming up during the All-Star break. We'll see if they go all hands on deck here because, Davies may work deep into the game, but he's a regression candidate. Hauser's kind of a multi-inning opener guy. Chase Anderson, get him 2 times through the order and get rid of him right away. So a lot of bullpen games probably coming up here in this series. Those are tough handicaps. I'd probably look to stay away from this series for the most part. Yankees and the Rays. This one actually starts tonight. It's a 4-game series. Jay Happ, Yanni Chirinos in Thursday's game. Masahiro Tanaka, Brendan McKay in Friday's game. CC Sabathia, Blake Snell Saturday. James Paxton, Charlie Morton on Sunday. Big series here both ways. It's a bigger series for the Rays because of the deficit in the division, because of how competitive that second wild card race could end up being. But you wonder about the Yankees here. Going out to London, had 2 travel days to get there, 1 travel day coming back, played a couple of interleague games in the Subway Series. You sort of wonder here if there's a little bit of fatigue for them at this point in time. They should be fresh because they've gotten a lot of guys back from injury, but also you sort of wonder if some of those guys that have played enhanced roles, and in particular this Yankees bullpen, kind of has a little bit of a tough time this weekend. I do think that when you look at this for the Yankees here, a split is the goal. I think if they win tonight, and I am on the Yankees tonight with Hap against a regression candidate in Chirinos, I think that they just want to win one more of these games in this series. That will be their focus. Not to say they're going to punt if they win the first 2, but simply to say that I don't think they want to give up any ground here. So if they have the split locked up, maybe you look at the Rays on Saturday and Sunday here. Of course, Blake Snell will have a line move against CC Sabathia. I would very much expect that. Snell, as I mentioned on Monday, not throwing as many curveballs in his previous start. Heavy fastball usage, maybe an over in play on Saturday, but Snell using that fastball a lot to try and get back on track, get those mechanics back in order. The Phillies and the Mets, these are the types of series I like to look at going into that final weekend because you've got 2 teams that are absolutely limping into the All-Star break here. Now, the problem is that the Phillies draw Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler. So they draw New York's 3 best starters here because if the circumstances were a little bit different, I'd probably be looking to back the Phillies. Vince Velasquez, Jake Arrieta, Aaron Nola going for them. The Mets are a disaster right now. The Phillies aren't a disaster. They're just not playing well. Everything is going wrong for the Mets. Injuries, the manager's probably going to get fired here at some point. Had a regime change with a new GM in the offseason, and a lot of his moves aren't really working out here so far. The major media scrutiny in New York City. The Mets have a lot of problems right now, and the Mets have to be looking forward to the All-Star break to get away from all the bullshit for a few days. The Phillies, on the other hand, well, they want to right the ship. They want to get themselves back into a position to contend, probably not for the NL East, but certainly for a wild card spot. So I think the Phillies are a little bit more focused here this weekend. The problem, of course, deGrom, Syndergaard, Wheeler. Do you really want to go up against those guys with the Phillies offense and how it has performed here of late? Maybe we look at the Phillies on Sunday with how well Aaron Nola has been pitching. Zach Wheeler is a trade candidate. He knows it. Seems to think there's a pretty decent chance that he gets moved. I think it's a tricky handicap. Again, I would look at the Phillies as a team that has a lot more motivation this weekend. But again, going up against deGrom and Syndergaard, that makes it really, really tough on Friday and Saturday. Sunday may end up with a play on the Phillies. We'll have to take a little bit deeper of a look at that one. Padres and the Dodgers here. Dilson Lamet comes off the DL to make his start against Hyun-Jin Ryu tonight. Eric Lauer, Clayton Kershaw tomorrow. Chris Paddock, Kenta Maeda on Saturday. Joey Lucchesi, Ross Stripling on Sunday. I kind of have a gut feeling about this series. And my gut feeling is that the Dodgers make a statement going into the break. They're in a great position already. They've got a massive lead in the division, big lead for home field advantage as well. I think they want to take this opportunity to strengthen that position. And the best analogy I can give you is, watching LeBron James for so many years, he just had these games where he would slap down a would-be contender. He'd go out there and, make Toronto feel embarrassed. Do the same thing to Boston. Something like that. He would have these games where just, almost out of nowhere in the regular season, he would just take it up another notch and make a statement and remind all the hopefuls that he's still the king of the mountain when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Dodgers could do this weekend. I think they have the right type of mindset. They have the right type of team, and they're exceptionally deep. When you look at this current landscape in Major League Baseball, being this late into the first half of the season, teams are tired. Pitchers are tired. Bullpens have been used a lot. A lot of bullpens have struggled. The Dodgers just have so much depth at so many positions that if you look around the league and try to take a survey of who the freshest teams are, the Yankees, because of all the injuries to key personnel, the Astros, because of how deep they are, and the Dodgers because of their depth. So I think the Dodgers could really hang one on the Padres here in this series. Unfortunately, I think it's very tough to bet because they'll be a big favorite in all 4 of these games. But it would not surprise me at all if the Dodgers go out there and make a really big statement and kind of give a final parting note for the first half to a team like the Padres that has a lot of individual talent, but is still pretty young, still going through the rigors of 162 games for the first time. Wouldn't shock me if the Dodgers go out there and do that. Angels and the Astros, and obviously these are very uncomfortable things to talk about. When you have some sort of tragedy, some sort of, really the way that we look at them here in this industry as situational spots, it's hard to talk about because you really don't want to try and exploit a team and take advantage of a team, especially with the circumstances that the Angels have dealt with here this week with the tragic passing of Tyler Skaggs. In this series, you've got Andrew Heaney going up against Justin Verlander, to be determined on Saturday and Sunday for the Angels. Garrett Cole, Jose Urquidy going for the Astros in those 2 games. And again, it makes me uncomfortable to talk about these types of things, but I think when you look at Sunday for the Angels here, that game is probably a total punt for them. You've got Urquidy who, made his debut at Coors Field. Certainly a tough spot for him to do that, a very tricky spot, even though he's from Mexico, had experience pitching in the altitude, and he wasn't that bad. It was Josh James that came in on kind of threw some gasoline on that fire for the Astros. But I think when you look at that one, you'll have a reasonable line on Houston, and you'll have an Angels team that is ready for this week to be over. They get to go home to their families. They finally get a chance to grieve and a chance to process everything. You look at the Astros on Sunday. You look at the Astros having a good chance of sweeping this series as well. You get that emotional bounce from the Angels in the first 2 games. Then they get out of Texas, get a change of scenery, know that they're only 3 more days away from going home and seeing their families and being able to cry in private and process everything that's happened. I think it's a very tough series for the Angels. Obviously, Verlander and Cole will be big favorites Friday, Saturday. I think the Astros on Sunday. A play that I'll be looking to make, obviously reluctantly, and I wish it was under different circumstances, but we have to look for opportunities here in this business, and I think that there is one on Sunday for the Astros. Cubs and the White Sox here, a 2-game interleague series. Very strange here. The Cubs off on Friday, the Indians also off on Friday, who I'll talk about next. We've got John Lester, Lucas Giolito on Saturday, Kyle Hendricks, Ivan Nova on Sunday. Again, weird little 2-game series here. What I'm most interested to see about this series is how is Lucas Giolito bet on Saturday? Because when he went into his really strong groove and was pitching really well, he played a lot of bad offenses or teams that were dealing with a lot of significant injuries. The Cubs are neither. So you look at this one here, and you sort of wonder, will the market fade Giolito on Saturday? But if that happens, it's to back John Lester. And backing John Lester, obviously a pretty scary thing here this season as well. So I'll be very interested to see what happens with that line for Saturday. And then on Sunday, Kyle Hendricks capped at 75 pitches, but took money in his first start back earlier in the week. Would expect he probably takes money in this one. Would expect he's capped around 85 pitches, something like that. So you probably want to look first 5 in that game on Sunday if you want to lay what should be a chalky price on Hendricks and the Cubs. Finally, the Indians and the Reds. And for the Indians here, they've made up about as much ground as they possibly could. They've taken advantage of an easier part of the schedule. They get the Minnesota Twins coming out of the All-Star break next weekend. Next weekend. So they have a huge series coming up out of the break. Let's see how they handle these 2 games here. Shane Bieber, Anthony DeSclafani on Saturday. Trevor Bauer, Tyler Mahle on Sunday. Reds making a big push. They're playing well. Indians trying to end this stretch on a high note, make up for those losses against the Orioles last weekend. I think these are 2 challenging handicaps because both of these teams should be very invested. You've got Bieber and DeSclafani on Saturday, and what I think is a game that sets up well for the over. A lot of hard contact for Bieber, giving up some home runs. DeSclafani, huge platoon advantages. He shut down the Indians last time. I'd be surprised if he does it again this time, in particular at Great American Ballpark. So I look for the over there on Saturday. Then on Sunday, Trevor Bauer, maybe he's feeling better. Maybe that ailment that he had has kind of gotten back on track. But, he's pitched well against some bad teams. Can he pitch well against a better Reds team? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, of course, Tyler Mahle having a fantastic season as well. But big platoon splits for him also. Lefties have hit him very well in his career. He's shut down righties. Indians run a lot of lefties out there when they want to, probably 6 or 7 of them in both of these games here this weekend, even though the pitchers have to hit. So, I think when you look at this series for the Indians here, good offensive potential for them, probably some decent offensive potential for the Reds as well. So maybe looking at a couple of overs here in this interleague series this weekend between the Tribe and the Reds. We'll have another edition of the Bettor's Box on Monday. Send me your questions at Skating Tripods on Twitter or adam@bangthebook.com via email. Also, that's how you sign up for the notes for the show. We'll have a home run derby preview for you either Sunday or Monday over at the website. I'm going to do some college football stuff next week, get my power ratings in order since I won't be doing the daily picks article. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to a nice little break. Usually take a vacation for the All-Star break. Not happening here this year. So to give me a chance to catch up on some college football stuff. I should have some college football stuff to post next week as well. That'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And remember that you will never strike out when you're in the Bettor's Box.